Morning, I'm going to call this meeting to order. And Commissioner Dickinson, would you lead us in prayer?
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for the opportunities to serve as this election season begins for 2023.
Thank you.
We praise you for all your many blessings, and we also praise the many election workers who will come to serve us over the next 6 months. Finally, we ask you for help for our members of our commission, for all of our community, and for all the people who serve us.
Thank you.
In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Commissioner?
Attention, salute, pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank y'all. You have in your packet the minutes from our last meeting, April the 12th, and we've had a chance to review them. Are there any additions or corrections?
I move we accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Madam Chairman, Clerk Ray texted me that she's on her way.
on our
So,
way,
yeah.
okay. Well, why don't we drop down to a couple of the lower items, and we'll go to the request for purges by district for this last time period. District 1,
14,
District 2,
17.
District 3, 20, District 4,
21?
District 5.
59.
Great, okay, do I hear a motion?
So move.
Mr. Lacy, okay. Is there-
Second.
Lauren seconds. All in favor? Aye. All right, the inactives, District 1,
17,
District 2,
13.
District 3, 16, District 4,
29?
District 5.
14.
Do I hear a motion?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
She got it in there.
She was
Good for
determined.
you.
Oh, wow. All right, let's go down. I'm going to skip all around today. Let's do new business, which is the request for a permanent absentee from District 2.
Need to make the motion.
This
Yes.
is in good order. It has been reviewed, the note from the doctor and everything is in there, so I move that we accept this man as a permanent absentee.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. All right, and then we have scheduled the poll worker training, and one of them lands on the June 14th, which is a meeting day. But I would like to suggest, and would need a motion to do this, that we cancel the June 14th meeting because we will be involved with training.
So moved.
All right?
Madam Chairman, I would like to restate that, not cancel, but to suspend.
Perfect, okay.
And what does he want to do?
We're gonna suspend.
Suspend.
Now, somebody can say.
So
I
moved.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
Dan, okay. All right,
Dan seconded it, because Lauren had already
Oh,
moved it.
Mr. Dan made, I didn't
He,
move. I
he
just
made
said
the
check.
movement
Okay.
once
Yes,
the
Mr. Dan made
verbiage
the
was
motion.
changed.
Okay, so it's Dan and then Dan. Dan and then Lauren.
Right.
Right.
Okay, got it. Thank y'all.
And so with that good approach, we'll just leave the public notice up, and then if, we need to huddle up and have a meeting, we can, and if we don't, we don't. So that's a good suggestion, good
Yeah.
approach.
okay, all right,
Carry it through.
all right.
Got to carry it through, Madam Chairman. We didn't vote.
I'm sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None. Okay, thank y'all. I was trying to keep up and circle where we've been. Sorry. Okay, we'll come back here to Ms. Ray, please.
Okay. Sorry, I was late. Guess my phone, my clock in the office must be slow. So I just handed the VR 001 report to, Pat, you and Pat?
165.
Okay, good. I didn't look to see. Okay,
What was the number again?
It's 165.
No, 155.
Let's say 155?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
glasses on.
Sorry, I couldn't read. 155.
Okay, I know that I sent out this legislation summary that I had received. I think I forwarded it to all of you.
Yes.
And I just wanted y'all to be aware of the new confirmation cards, number one, with the new information that's going to be on them. And also, there is a requirement now that we cannot, it used to be the voter ID, social security, and date of birth. Now we cannot give out the age nor the telephone or email addresses. I'm sure y'all weren't doing that anyway, but just wanted to let you know. Also, there will be an audit of the Secretary of State is requesting that, I think it's between the years 23 to 27, every county in the state of Mississippi will have at least up to 5 precincts to be audited. So, and there will be a report after that. So let's try to make our election perfect.
Okay, we will.
But that's all that I have.
Would you speak to redistricting?
Redistricting, we're not completely finished with it yet. I've got about 5 more precincts to do, hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay, now let's see, we're down to,
Number 8.
number 8, yeah, old business.
Did we do the VRO one?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
155.
Sorry, I missed that.
155.
Thank you.
All right,
But we didn't approve, we didn't vote on it.
we're just acknowledging it.
Okay, got it. Got it. Thank you. I guess we're on old business.
Right, I'm gonna turn it over to Spence, because he's been involved with our, working with that.
Sure. Okay, the agreements with the political parties, and just start with the concept that the primary elections that's the Democrats and Republicans' primary elections. And we can agree to help if they want our assistance. And so we've spent a lot of time, really over the years, coming up with how that works and looks, and we kind of tweak it every time based on experience from the last time. And so, not to revisit everything, because we talked about it at the last meeting, we've met on it and that type of thing. And so we worked on the agreement, and since our last meeting, Howard has some requests with the Democrats to make some changes, and we accommodated those as best we could. Really pretty much all of them except for one sticking point. And so I sent that to Howard, and I sent it to the Republican Party so they'd have the same agreement. The Republican Party executed the agreement that I sent y'all, and we're helping them, And there was a deadline of 5 o'clock yesterday. I kind of moved it up so we would know by today the situation. So Howard and I talked a lot and worked a lot of things out. But I'm glad you're here today, Howard. The last point was who appoints the poll workers, the Democrat Party or the Election Commission. And, I conveyed to him what y'all said about the reasons to appoint election commissioners and some of the problems that have come up in the past. And he said, well, I hadn't really heard that. And I said, well, probably what happens is you get through election day and you have the headaches and you're just ready to move on, and we don't really do a debrief of why the appointment of poll workers is important. and problems to be avoided. So, but I'm kind of the middleman, and so it's helpful that you're here, and he can hear from you, and y'all can hear from him, his views. But we're basically to the point where I can just boil all these hours of good faith talking and all that to that point. It's really who appoints the poll workers, and so that's where we are, Madam Chairman. So I don't know how you'd like to proceed, if you want to listen to Howard first, or if y'all want to talk first, or however, but that's basically it.
Right.
Yes, and so yesterday afternoon, he emailed me back the contract that he signed, and he edited and X'd out, just to summarize it, that y'all would appoint the poll workers, and the language basically was to the effect that the Democratic Party would appoint and assign roles to the poll workers, for like the poll manager and that type thing. And so, but that's really not, that's a counteroffer. And so, and we've talked at length, and I told him, and was just candid with him, I said, I'm just the lawyer. The commission's told me that they don't want to, that they're not going to do that, so I can't go past what I represent y'all. I'm not a commissioner, so that's where we are. So that's I guess a counteroffer from him that they appoint the poll workers, and he'll agree to the contract with that. So that's, but I told him I can't get over my skis, on that. So that's kind of where we are.
Madam Chairman, I think I'll allow him to speak, so we can hear it.
I can't hear you, Leroy.
That's what I think so too. He was saying that we need to invite Mr. Brown to the podium so he can give his input there. And so we would love
Please
to
do.
have you up there now, Mr. Brown.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Madam Chair and Madam Clerk and Mr. Flatguard and our technician back here.
I can't hear, I'm tired.
Oh, I said, good morning, everybody, and good morning to your technician that lets everybody see you all.
Yeah.
I will try to be very, very brief because I know you all typically have very short meetings, and y'all probably want to keep it that way. At the last meeting, I believe I indicated that I and the Democratic Executive Committee was in the process of getting feedback concerning the contract. Since your last meeting, I've talked to multiple poll workers. I've talked to multiple people, members of the Madison County Democratic Executive Committee, and we've had a meeting since, we've had a Democratic Executive Committee meeting since your last commissioners meeting. And in our executive committee meeting, it was unanimously decided that the Democratic Executive Committee should be able to hire and appoint its poll workers in a Democratic primary. All of the poll workers that I spoke to felt the same way. And so that's pretty much where we are. If it's a Democratic primary, we feel that we should be able to run it, conduct it with y'all's superb help, as has been given in the past. And at the risk of oversimplifying, that's pretty much where we are from the standpoint of the Democratic Executive Committee. To the extent that you all have any concerns about who's supposed to be where and who you all think should be where, I am all willing, and I'll be there with bells on to listen to that so that it can be incorporated. But at the end of the day, the buck is gonna stop, has to stop somewhere. And if it's a Democratic primary, I just think that who the workers are gonna be and where they're gonna be should substantially rest with the Democratic Party. And with that being said, I just want to ask two quick questions if y'all don't, if, Madam Chair, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And the questions I have are, does the commission intend to take a vote today on the contract that I submitted to Mr. Flatgard, number one? And number two, if there is no contract at the end of the day, and I hope there is one, but if there isn't one, is the commission, the election commission, willing to train Democratic poll workers? Or does the commission intend to take the position that the Democratic Party will have to train its own poll workers? I think that's a question I'm going to get asked rather quickly, and I want to be in a position to try to answer that and reach out to the appropriate county people, if we have to train them, to reach out to the appropriate county people about having access to the machines and all that stuff for training, which I think will likely incur additional costs to the county and create a lot of confusion in terms of poll workers who are going to work in Madison County perhaps being taught different things in the training, which I think everyone would want to avoid that. But those are my two questions. And if y'all have any questions for me, I would be happy to attempt to answer them to the best of my ability. But I don't want to go on and on and on until folks start looking at their watches and wondering when I'm going to hush.
Let me add, thank you, Howard. It's very
You're wel-
helpful that you're here.
You're
and,
welcome.
That's good. It might be that the commission wants to express their view on why the poll worker issue is important to them and the experiences they've had. And then as to his two questions, Madam Chairman, y'all can, it's a counter offer from them that this is what we require of y'all in helping us. And if you want to take a vote on it, that's fine. And if you don't want to accept their counter offer on how they want the primary to run, that's fine too. And then as to the second question, are y'all willing to train the Democratic poll workers? It's a little more complicated than that, because it kind of gets into the heart of the question of like, well, who's a poll worker? Can anybody show up and or not show up? And you know, the headaches we've had in the past where the first night, 60 people show up and nobody gets meaningful training. So it's a complicated question that ties into the heart of it is, who's managing the poll worker situation, and if it's, if y'all are going to run the election and train people, do you have the say on who's you're training and who's working where, or does the Democrat Party? So
I think some excellent questions have been posed here, but I do think we as commissioners need some time to discuss this amongst ourselves. So I'd like to make a motion right now that we go into executive session to discuss, and then we can answer Howard's questions after.
That's I do think discussion's warranted. I'm not sure though that there's really just a narrow set of reasons in the state law on going into executive session. It has to do with, is there litigation pending, is there an employment matter, sensitive things like that. And I'm not sure that, and this has come up in the newspaper for the Board of Supervisors, when can you go into executive session? So it's something that people care about and follow and all that. So I'm not sure, with a lack of litigation or an employment issue or economic development, that under that narrow set of rules, we can go into executive session. Now, it could be that you talk about it today, and it could be that after the meeting, you don't get together as 5 people and talk about it, or even 3 people, because then that's a meeting, but you maybe have individual conversations one-on-one too. And you could do it like that if you're not ready to make a decision today. So those would be 2 options I'd suggest to y'all.
I'll defer to the chairwoman.
Okay.
I guess we need to just continue on then. Does anybody want to speak to?
Yeah, I have a couple comments.
Okay.
First, everybody understands that these are political primaries, and they're the primary responsibility of the parties involved. There's no question about that. You and Renee have an absolute right to run your own primary. It's in law, and we support that. That's your right. The concern we have is, let's put the shoe on the other foot. Let's say that you had said, hey, I love that contract, that's a great contract, I'm going to sign. And let's say Renee walked in and said, I think that's a fine contract too, I think the Republican Party should pick the poll workers. What would the Democratic Party's reaction to that be? Probably not very positive.
I missed the last part of your statement, I'm sorry.
What would the reaction of the Democratic Party be if Renee Lambert, the Republican chairman, insisted that the Republicans appoint all the poll workers? They probably wouldn't find that very agreeable.
For her primary, it would be fine, because it's a Republican primary. We wouldn't have any problem with
The problem
that.
is the primary is on August 8th, and there will be both Republican and Democratic primaries in every precinct in this county. And that's why it's important that a board, which is by law and in practice, as we all know, nonpartisan, be involved, working with both parties and taking their recommendations as was provided in the contract. Go ahead and put the best team together that will serve the voters of both parties. That's an essential issue here. Second issue is, and we've all had this from past experience, when the party gets involved in picking the poll workers, which again, if you're going to run the whole thing, that's entirely your business. But when we're trying to serve the needs of all the citizens of Madison County, and as we all know, any Madison County citizen who's registered to vote can vote in either primary. We always say to people, do you want a Democratic ballot or do you want a Republican ballot? If Renee Lambert walks in, and Lake Caroline where she votes, she will be said, Renee, would you like a Democratic ballot or a Republican ballot? We need to make sure that we have a consistency of training for the poll workers, and that we who have had experience with working with these poll workers, in many cases for many years, have the freedom to pick the ones who are going to be the best job to serve all of our citizens. And that's the reason why we think we should be charged with that. But again, it's your right. If you don't want to do that and you want to run your own primary,
Then don't sign it.
then don't sign it.
I would like to add to Dan's point. Our precincts are only allowed certain numbers of poll workers. And I think it's fair and equitable for the Republican Party and the Democratic Party to, if there is a primary in the precinct for both parties, to have an equal share of that number of poll workers. I think that's only the right thing to do. The concern is if the commission is picking the Republican Party primary workers based on the recommendations of the Republican Party, and we're not picking the Democratic poll workers, we're concerned about maybe overstaffing or understaffing or something like that. And overstaffing is definitely a concern for taxpayer dollars because we do pay poll workers. Understaffing is a concern for the logistics of the day of the election and how smoothly that is going to run. So I think that's a concern for all of us as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I think for years we've been trying to move to the point where that we could operate as Madison County and not be a division between. And in 2019, we did pretty well with it. And we were trying to get back to that, I guess, standard in my mind, because we worked together with the two parties and we had an equal number of poll workers, but we did not have surprise poll workers that had not even been to training, that we did experience some in the Democratic Party
When was that?
in 2019. And I believe you were chairman then, too.
I was.
So our effort has been to, by extending what we put in the contract, the wording there, that would help the county overall have knowledge of who the poll workers were, who have been to the training, and that sort of thing. And so that's why we were kind of using that as a template for this contract, because of all those things. But I appreciate you coming and speaking with us, and if the commission here, we can consider the counter offer. No, I have it, but the rest of commissioners have not been, because it came in to me this morning, right before the meeting. And
I
so
submitted it yesterday.
I think it said 5 p.m. or 5:32, something like that, but I was gone from the office at that point, and
Yes,
so
ma'am.
I didn't see it until this morning. But we'll let you know, and we'll talk about it and decide what we need to do. Are you prepared to do poll worker training?
We won't have a choice, Madam Chair. We've received our training from the Mississippi Secretary of State's
Okay,
office.
okay, because I knew that had happened in January.
Yes.
And I just was curious if, that had happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay.
Well, good.
Well, we'll let you know something in the near future, and we appreciate so much you coming and speaking with us today. Are there other comments from the commissioners?
Question, Mr. Howard.
Yes, sir.
You said if no contract, will we train the poll workers, I believe?
Yes, sir. That was my question, one of my questions.
So you're saying at that point, you're going to provide them?
Yes, sir. To be trained by this commission. Yes, sir.
So you're saying that if you provide them, you're going to provide them in a timely manner that coincides with what's going on this side?
We would be glad to do that. Been reaching out to them already.
Okay. As Ms. Lawrence said, do you understand that I'm going to use one of my precincts, such as Camden Community Center, the maximum number of people can be there is 8, where you realize that you can't have but 4 in those terms, because it's all across the county the same way. Q Paul, you can only have 2. I'm just using some. Bethel Church, you can only have 2.5 because it's 5, so however that works out, that kind of thing.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Lacy, I believe, as Mr. Flatguard has pointed out through time, the number of poll workers, as I understand it, is statutory.
Right.
And we are more than happy to comply with that. I would like to think that we have done so. In terms of overcrowding, not trying to belabor anything, but I don't recall an instance in the past when too many Democratic poll workers showed up and there was an issue of too many people being at a precinct. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm not aware of it. But the number of poll workers, we will be very, very happy to manage that as needed with any input and dialogue. And I'll even use, any input and dialogue from the commission. And if the commission does the training, I know y'all hadn't made up your mind, then that ought to provide a lot of consistency. But yes, we're happy to provide them in a timely manner to be trained. Just let us know when and where they need to be and the numbers. Now, if I could end on this note, if y'all don't mind, if memory serves, last year was, I believe, the first primary election for Commissioner Dickinson and Commissioner Payne. And if I recall correctly, they were all done at the Madison Multipurpose Center. I don't remember an instance where too many people showed up and it was helter-skelter. Maybe I missed something, but I don't remember that being an issue. I remember it being an issue way back when training was done in this boardroom and it got a little crowded, but last year I don't remember any. So we're happy to get in where we fit in and try to help keep the peace and keep things moving best we can.
One more question, Howard. You mentioned the poll managers.
Yes, sir.
I think you had indicated that you should choose the poll managers.
Yes, sir.
We have 43 precincts. Where does that leave the Republicans? Will all the poll managers be Democrats or chosen by the Democratic Committee?
Commissioner Dickinson, in theory and on paper, the way it works in my mind is on August the 8th, 2023, and I hope I don't repel anybody with my comments, but I just want to be frank. But before you put the guard up, just give me a couple of seconds if you don't mind. The way it is in my simplistic country boy mind is, on August the 8th, there will be 2 primary elections running in Madison County, one by the Democratic Party, one by the Republican Party. And the Republican Party can have their poll manager and their poll workers, and the Democratic Party can have their poll manager and their one poll manager and their poll workers. In theory, that's how I see it. 43 Republican poll managers, 43 Democratic poll managers. And on Monday, the Republican poll managers will come get their ballots and the other supplies so that the Republican Party knows where their ballots are. You know, I don't think there's any worse feeling than, you know, waking up on Election Day and ballots not being where they need to be. So the Republican manager will come get their ballots on Monday evening, and the Democratic managers will come get their ballots on Monday evening and take them to the precinct. To the extent that there are any hiccups and people just need to work together to make sure a precinct is up and running, I'm fine with that.
Mr. Brown, we found in previous years, though, that it works so much better if there is one manager. Our equipment is now designed where that you don't have to have separate login areas. They can come in and choose which ballot, and that poll book tablet will immediately tell which one. It prints out a receipt, and they can then go to whichever table your initialing manager is.
Yes, ma'am.
And I see it where you could have an initialing manager from both parties there. I don't think we need to have 2 separate setups. And we have previously decided which precincts were Democrat predominantly and which ones were predominant Republican. And we had at that time decided who would provide the poll manager for those particular precincts. And that seems to work better, and it works better with people that we have worked with through the years, and you don't usually have a manager that it's their first time out. And sometimes when we do party work, the Democrat person may have never worked before, and they are in kind of a leadership role, and it causes a little bit of an issue at the precinct. I'm not trying to take the election away from you at all, but it's just that I'm not personally comfortable with the changes that you wanted to make to the contract. So,
I respect that.
did you want to say anything?
I have
I
one more
think-
comment.
Could I address Madam Chair Truesdale's
Yes.
comment? I see your point. I see your point. Not trying to punt, but that's something we can talk about. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to come get those ballots on Monday, and that's our leadership person. So the ballots have got to get to the precinct. Somebody that the Democratic Party is comfortable with has got to come get those ballots. Now, once the ballots get to the precinct, we can, poll workers aren't as picky as me and Spence. They don't really care
I think so.
That's what we're trying to do, have it work as a group for Madison County.
We can talk about it, but somebody's got to come get the ballots, and somebody's got to be in a leadership position for the Democratic Party. And once everything gets to the precinct, we can talk about that.
Well, Howard, that's why we left the ballot process in the hands of the parties, which, by the way, Renee was not very happy about, as we all know. We understand that that's the sensitive part that you all have to control.
Well,
I do have a comment. I'm just gonna say, like, for that, I'm just gonna go back with the general election. When the 5 of us, Leroy, all of us, get our poll workers, we never have a problem with the Democrats getting the ballots or picking up the ballots or taking them, bringing them back. It's always worked, I think, very well when the 5 of us do the general. And that's what we're trying to say, or I'm trying to say is,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't see why it couldn't work that way with the primaries. Because we know our poll workers, we've worked with them, we seem to hire the best ones, and they're trained, they've worked before. It just seems to me that it works very well with the 5 of us in charge of training and getting the poll workers. And it seems that we divide it out equally. We take your recommendations.
Right.
We go by that. We try to get them. And that's just my comment.
I have one more comment, unless you want to address Commissioner Carney first.
no, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if we get to the point where you are of picking your poll workers, would you be willing and able to provide that contact information to us? Because to Helen's point, we do have the general just a few short months after the August primary, and we do try to take care in the general to staff equally even then. So that contact information would be very valuable to us. My additional comment would be, I don't have the list of the races and candidates in front of me right now, so I can't tell you exactly which races, but we're pretty much guaranteed to have a runoff in Madison County on some statewide races and some countywide races. That runoff, I believe, is to be scheduled August 29th. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. But when you're contacting poll workers, ideally, you would make sure that they're available not only for the primary, but for the primary runoff as well.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Payne, we will be very comfortable providing contact information for our poll workers with the request that they not be contacted and given directions concerning the primary. But with that being said, we'll be happy to provide the information. And at the risk of being off-putting and sounding smart alecky, I would say that I hear Commissioner Carney that you all do a great job with the general. I agree with that. I would only say that I think the Democratic Party does a pretty good job with the primaries. We have done, since I've been around, at least 6, 7, or 8 primary elections. I think there are 3 primaries per year, excluding the municipal races. So that's at least 6, 7, or 8 that I've been a part of. And if primary elections was barbecue, I'd say ours tastes all right. And with that being said, I'm through unless there's anything else for me.
I'm just going to address one thing.
Yes, sir.
And that one thing, I've sit in the seat of Ms. Pat back some years ago as chairman of this commissioner, and I reached out to, at that time, Democratic and Republican parties to try to bring these elections together. That was one of the first times, probably way back in 2012 2012, trying to bring it together. We got to that point. We are only trying to enhance from that point on to now, which things have different. At that time, it was set up that you had separate tables and all of that, but technology has brought this where you can actually have an election together, one system. The only part that's going to be affected here majorly is what your concern is who picks up the ballots for that party and who picks up for that party. That is a concern. Number two, your other concern is your poll workers, and I think that's where we are more than anything in the whole group. I don't think none of this other stuff is a problem, training and none of that. I think you have a concern of your own poll workers being there, and which they will be there based on being its election for both parties. But if there's any way that we can iron this out, because we are Madison County, and we don't need to be a separate county based on a few little small issues that should be able to be ironed out some kind of way, and let this thing go forward and not let it be something that we can't do, because I figure out there's some tweaks somewhere in here between us and you and Mr. Spence that we ought to could figure out a way on these poll workers and let this thing fly and let us get to the point that we need to be at. And that's my comment, because we can't keep this county, keep being separate and expect us to be better. Because somewhere down the line, we're just gonna have to say, hey, it's Madison County. I know we got two parties in Madison County, and it's okay. I mean, I know this county is no different than some of the other counties. I sat at the state HIMSS for 6 years, and I know for a fact that commissioners run every elections in certain counties. I know that for a fact, and all of it. But I understand if nobody wants to give it up, you don't have to give it up. I know that. But I do want to say we need to figure out a way to work hand in hand so the people of Madison County understand that we can work together and make an election great.
I agree 100%. I'm willing, and I believe the Democratic Executive Committee is willing to go above and beyond to get exactly to where you just described, Commissioner Lacy. One last thing, I know it's y'all's meeting. I can't tell y'all what to do, but if you all are not inclined to, well, I would suggest that some vote be taken at some point and put in the minutes so that y'all's minutes reflect how folk voted. With that being said, I see there is a 2-minute limit on this podium, which I have greatly exceeded. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming, Howard.
Thank you all.
And I'll just add, imitation's the most sincere form of flattery. I'm going to steal your barbecue line. That was pretty good. And the commission, of course, they can't have a meeting outside of, an announced time and things, but I think that they'll talk individually and in short order, I'll follow up with you one way or another. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
I think we're down to comments from speakers.
Sorry, I wasn't on. I do have some additional old business from March. We discussed in March the AOC report, and I want to commend the commission on the AOC reports and SIMS. We were at, I want to say, around 150 AOC matches. Now, I do want to point out, for those who may not know, obviously you're not on the commission, but if you don't know, but on our AOC reports, you can have multiple matches for one voter, depending on how many times they were convicted of a possible disenfranchising crime. We've gone down from about 150 to 47 as of when I checked on Sunday, and that's a huge improvement on our AOC reports. I have provided you with a color-coded list. Each district has its own color of the AOC matches that are still left in the system. They are all 4 counties that are not Madison County. So what our process would be on those is to email the clerks of those counties to get the sentencing report and then have Spence advise us on whether or not it is actually a disenfranchising crime. If we are processing the AOC voters, there's two different ways that we can process it, and one of them is quicker, but it's not the most accurate way to process them in Sims through the AOC screen because it does not allow for us to notate the voters. So those need to be processed from the voter registration screen. However, there are quite a few of these matches on the AOC report that are not actually matches. There's a degree of confidence on the report as to whether or not this is an actual match for the voter. And we're not going to get it right every single time on the computer system. However, as commissioners, we can do the research and determine whether or not it is that voter. And when we do determine that it's not that voter, we need to go into the AOC screen and process it as no match to remove it so that it does not continue to appear on our report list.
I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
Because on the two that I have called the county, they have no record of it. So what do you think I should do with those that have no record in that county?
I have had that happen before myself, and I have processed that as a no match.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
I want to commend Commissioner Payne for all the hard work that she has done on this project. It really makes a
absolutely.
big difference.
I love the report. It's very easy to pick out which one belongs to which district, so thank you very much for
Yeah, thank you.
providing that.
You're welcome. I love to color code anything.
I believe you have in your packet the training times. If not, I will provide it to you by email quickly. But I wanted to just acknowledge that, and we will then post that if we do them. But now we are going to do them for the Republicans because they have signed the contract with us. And upon your recommendation, I will sign their contract. But it was turned in timely, and they accepted it as we presented it.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and we will need to talk and figure out what our next move is here with the contract for the Democrats. Spence, can we come back to you now?
Yes. Yes, sure.
We have hopscotched this morning.
No, that's
but
good. We
thank
covered a lot
you.
of ground, good discussion, and it's good that we heard from the Democrat Party chairman, and then as y'all go forward and talk, just a reminder, that, a public meeting is three of y'all getting together and certainly deciding something, so don't get together the three y'all talking and decide something. You can talk one-on-one and then, you get a consensus of things and talk to me. And there might be a point where you want to have a meeting, but you can also just have, one-on-one conversations and just talk it through and get a feel for things, and then just let me know. And so here's my bill is mostly over the last month working with the Republicans and the Democrats on the ironing out the
Thank you.
contracts for the primary. I think we're on a good
Thank you.
path for a big election.
I move to pay Spence.
Second.
Second. Who seconded?
Leroy.
You did.
I did. I did?
You did.
No, Leroy did.
Oh, Leroy. Okay, sorry.
I'm sitting here and I heard him first, and then Helen was right behind him.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, comments from commissioners. District 1,
None.
District 2,
None.
District 3. I want to say that this is very unusual circumstances, and I feel like that we have worked very hard with both parties, and we now still need to have a consensus before we do any further with the Democrat Party. And Spence, where are we gonna, what is our next move, us discussing this 2 by 2 and, figuring out.
I think that's right. 2 by 2, and then as Madam Chairman, in your role, as you see if a consensus does emerge, let me know, and if a consensus doesn't emerge, let me know. And either way, I'll report back to the Democrat Party so they can make plans since it's May. And I'll add, we've got all this to them months ago, and so this is kind of the eve at the last second we're getting this. But despite that, we'll act quickly because it is, the middle of May and the training starts in June. So I thought we'd have some finality this morning. We have this counteroffer, and we'll need to let them know quickly so they can make plans one way or another.
Thank you. That's all I've got. District 4?
Just one thing, as you all know, the state legislature has approved election audits. Audits are scary. Audits almost always find some areas where we need to improve. But I do want to commend the state legislature. I think this will give us an objective look at how we are performing. It'll drive improvement throughout the state, throughout our system. And I think we all ought to go into it realizing that they will find that we are making some errors. All humans do, but go into it with a positive attitude because it really is a tool for making things better.
Thank you. District 5?
Nothing, other than when the machine go off, we discuss this thing.
Okay.
All right. Is there any further business?
I just wanted to ask, did you approve the permanent absentee?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure.
We did.
Okay.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn until,
So moved.
and that's a purge day, okay? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Leroy. Aye.
Aye. Thank you, we are adjourned.
Lauren doesn't even let you get through with the tall saying.
Let's go.
She knows
I
where
want
we're.
to discuss this.
I know, but you gotta give somebody else a chance. You asked